We're about to start the F factor. It's a great last question or comment to sort of get into a discussion on all of these topics. The F factor represents females, founders, funders, fearlessness, failing fast. I was also given a long list by Sonia of F words I'm not supposed to say. And I knew the first one, but some of them I didn't even recognize. But to start, we're gonna jump through sort of where we've come, where we are, the state of things, and then get into a more meaningful discussion about where we're going. So to start, I'm just gonna make our way down and a quick introduction, name, title, a little bit of your background. So start with you, Alida. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we're gonna have to be doing sharing, yes.
Okay. Well, hello everyone. My name is Alida Burke. I'm the co-founder and COO of a company located here in West Ottawa called the Growcer. You might have seen our container out back. We manufacture commercial hydroponic farms for anyone to grow food locally.
Hey everyone, I'm Giovanna Mingarelli. I'm the CEO and co-founder of MC2. We are building the Uber for Social Action, which is a chatbot marketplace that matches people with activities to do nearby. We were originally an Invest Ottawa incubated company, and our company is still based in Ottawa, and I now live in Seattle.
I think they have a mic. Right here. You too.
Hi, everyone. Janice McDonald. I have been an entrepreneur since 1991. When I started my first business, I won't sing the jingle, but some of you might remember it, called CD Warehouse. And yeah, there we go. There's the jingle. And since then, many other businesses, and I'm really excited to be here today with all of you.
And I'm Jennifer Francis. I'm the chair of Capital Angel Network here in Ottawa. We do angel investing in primarily local Ottawa-based companies, and I'm a 30-year veteran of the tech sector in Ottawa.
Awesome. So Janice, maybe we'll start with you. Given you gave us 1991 or whatever, you aged yourself already. So to start, we'll get into where we're at, but let's start with a little bit of good. What's happened? What's different now in female entrepreneurship, female leadership now versus, say, when you first started out?
So, yeah, 1991, at the same time I was finishing my first graduate degree, and I did that in Canadian Studies, and I wrote on women on boards, and that came out in 1992. So I can tell you that in 1992, no one was thinking about, interested in, or really concerned about women on boards. I was, but, but I think I was the only one. And so change has been slow. Change has been really slow in that regard. But to be clear, and I know we're going to talk about where we're at, I am, however, very encouraged with where we are. If I look back in 1991, there was no entrepreneurial ecosystem for a young woman. I was a co-founder, young woman co-founder. Didn't exist. There wasn't a place. I wasn't going to go to my Chamber of Commerce. Okay, that I didn't see myself there, and frankly, I wasn't really welcomed there at that time. Now I am so encouraged, like tonight. Yes, look at this. I would have killed for a night like this, even 15 years ago, frankly, or 5. I am on the board of Futurepreneur, so that's really focused on 18 to 39, starting and growing businesses in Canada. And so that's exciting too, and I didn't know about that at the time. Well, they didn't exist quite at that time, but what's exciting to me when I think about how far we've come is the tremendous resources that are available. I'm going to reference some of our own research that we've done. So in 2016, my company partnered with Carleton University, and I'm a co-author of a national study on women entrepreneurs and our approach to risk. And I don't think it'll surprise any of our amazing founders here today that we're very comfortable making risk-related decisions. 2018 also looked at women entrepreneurs, again with my co-author from Carleton, Claire Becton, and looked at innovation. And I know we were talking tech, but the challenge for Canadian women entrepreneurs is they're innovating every day and everywhere in their businesses. But our shortcut is innovation equals tech and tech equals innovation. But there's so much other innovation happening in businesses. And of course, I see lots of nodding, because if you don't innovate, you die. It's as simple as that. So we will be looking, our third study will launch soon this year, and if you want to get involved, just flag me down. We'd love to interview you. And it's going to be on women entrepreneurs and export. So very exciting, because we want women to grow their businesses, and export is a really exciting way to do it. Ties in, of course, to our first ever Women Entrepreneur Strategy, which we have at the federal government level, and it gives you a sense of how important that is, I think, for our Canadian economy. We know the stats, I don't have to go into it, but nevertheless, I'm very encouraged, and frankly, I would like to take a moment and say, Mike and Sonia and Susan, your leadership, things have really changed here in this space. This is exciting for women entrepreneurs to have a place to come and hang out. I didn't have it, but we have it now. And this is really powerful when we gather. And as you said, then we can find out about opportunities, match up with people who have money or mentorship or all the things that we know actually will really help women entrepreneurs grow their businesses. Awesome.
Jennifer, so you spent better part, or well over a decade with IBM, Cognos, Watchwire. So what's different for an executive in that position maybe today than when you were going through it, because it's very male-dominated?
Yeah, so not as much has changed as I had hoped. When I started out my career, I went to the University of Waterloo. It was fairly male. If you go to the University of Waterloo today, it's still fairly male. If you look at the tech sector, the numbers have hardly changed in the 30 years of my career in tech. And I will use tech to mean tech versus shortcutting to innovation. Yeah, the numbers just haven't changed a lot. And part of what I'm doing for that, I run a program called Technovation for high school girls to try and get them engaged in tech and to get more women into these programs in the colleges and universities, and then hopefully into the workforce. To my next point, the workforce then has to be a little more welcoming, I think, to different types of people, so that women, because if you look at the tech sector, you'll actually find that the numbers in the sector are worse than the numbers in the university, and that speaks to the bias and the welcoming within tech companies that we have to work on. And from an angel investing, we spoke about it a little bit earlier, but 2.2% of the funding goes to female-led businesses. A little higher for businesses that have a woman on the executive team. I think it's around 12% if you have a woman on the executive team, but only 2.2% for women-led. So a lot of work to do to get those numbers up.
Which was the same in 2017 as it was in 2017?
Yeah, those numbers, there's some numbers like women on boards. I think Susan said we might get there in 100 years. At the current trajectory, we're not going anywhere.
You're not going anywhere?
On the financing. We really need to make a step change in the financing area.
Giovanna, what about for you over the last 10 years? You've been on the front end trying to lead some of this change, but what have you noticed progress?
Yeah, well, so I'm from Ottawa originally, and I actually started off in politics when I was 15. And by the age of 20, I was working in the Prime Minister's press office for Paul Martin when he was Prime Minister, and really loved people and bringing people together around shared activities. But at a very, very young age, was exposed to a lot of the things that, any woman would experience in business. There's an incredible sense of insecurity that can set in, especially as a very young woman in very male-dominated industries. You can obviously, get hit on inappropriately. There are so many different ways in which women can be disadvantaged, especially at a young age. Many of these issues I found were quite consistent in business later when I started my first company. So after the 2006 election, I went into tech because of my passion for people. I moved to New York. I worked at a tech startup there, which later sold to Facebook. I worked in England at a television startup that was kind of leading the charge in local televised broadcasting. And then I started my first company, MNC Consulting, in 2012 here in Ottawa. And So many of the issues kind of transcended from politics to business. In particular in tech, you kind of see the whole plethora of ways in which women can experience those spheres. Essentially, it's about power and money and different levels of influence. And so all that to say, I do find that there's been an incredible shift in the last 2 to 3 years in particular in support of women. And that's for a number of reasons. I think that, extraordinary women like you, Janice, who's one of my mentors, and, by the way, one of Canada's top 100 most powerful women Hall of Fame leaders, because she's been it like 5 times. You really have to have mentors that you can look up to. And those forms of mentorship, right? Like when you're 15, you look at someone who's 20, because that's relatable. And when you're 20, you look at someone who's 27, right? 5 years older than she is. She really is. But you really need mentors, and because otherwise it's really hard to see yourself and in that role, right? Like in that position of power, and so, or like in that position of leadership. It's really something that's very necessary and hugely important. And so, especially if we want to see women in more senior levels of leadership. And so all that to say, I really see that in the last 2-3 years, in part with the 2015 election and 50% of women forming cabinet, that played a huge role culturally in Canada in creating a standard or a precedent in terms of the expectation of there being more women on, at the very least in government, but then also this is trickled down into boards. By extension as well, the Me Too movement, right? This is something that has been hugely important because the stuff that I dealt with 10 years ago that I couldn't talk about because I would have been considered, it would have been brushed off, or I would have been considered a problem, I can talk about now publicly, and it's actually acceptable and it's fine. And I think that that's really healthy and that's good. And so, I think that we're doing an incredible amount for women in business right now, and we need more women that are talking about the issues, but also the incredible opportunities that are available to us. Yeah.
So Alida, for you, I mean, this is kind of like fresh and new for you. You're like, I know it's not a dream, but you've had some challenges with your business, but you're still in school, for God's sakes, and you've got this great, startup taken off. When you hear all of this, and what's your take, and what are some of the resources and programs you've been able to lean on?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting perspective to see what other women have faced just in the industry that I'm just jumping into now and seeing how that's changed. I think I've really benefited just in the last few years in terms of that shift that we've seen within Canada. That has really helped my journey as an entrepreneur that has been relatively smooth. There have been so many resources that I've been able to tap into that have really helped myself and my co-founder to expand our business in a relatively new industry of hydroponics, and what that really means. Now, what struck a chord was what you were saying, Susan, before, in terms of you're not really realizing what sort of how you got there and where potentially the other female founders might be, and so it really makes me reflect too in terms of how can we maybe work together with other young budding female entrepreneurs in being able to move that dial even further and what we can do there. And I think a lot of it goes towards the mentors, like working here at Invest Ottawa every day, working with female mentors like Sonia, like Susan, like Heidi, to really see, okay, they're doing some amazing things. I can work with them every day. It really goes a long way to have those role models to move the business forward.
Cool. Pass it down to get Monique back in the game here. So
I was taking a break.
Yeah, you talked about it from the investment perspective, but what do you see in the Valley? And obviously you invest in other markets. What's different for a female founder now versus back when you were a female founder?
Well, you do have more organizational support. So you've got organizations like Always who are really dedicated to supporting women founders. And you have you have not enough, but you have more women on the investor side of the table writing checks. And you certainly have more funds that are dedicated to exclusively investing in women founders, like Built by Girls, BBG. You've got Golden Seeds, so on and so forth. Female Founders Fund. And so we didn't have those 10 years ago, right? So I think that's a great thing. And I also think that you have sort of this change in sentiment, right? So that now it's not cool to say, I don't invest in women founders, or to have to have that sort of feeling. Now it's just gone underground, because certainly there are male investors who are still bad actors. But I think the fact that, they at least feel some level of shame is a good first step. Shame is a good first step.
So talking about resources, maybe share over with Janice. Any other, are there any boot camps around or anything like that
that I want to pitch? Yes. Okay, so before I pitch the boot camp, I do want to share that female funders, so look that up, that is in Canada. Jill Earthy, if you do want to get training to really understand how to invest. She has an amazing program, and it goes through by cohort, so really helpful, female funders. And then also, Paulina Cameron in Vancouver has the Forum for Women Entrepreneurs. So that's another great resource. There's training, et cetera. But the one that I want to talk about is the one that's happening here March 19th. And so BDC, Business Development Bank of Canada, hired my company and partnered with us to offer boot camps for women entrepreneurs right across Canada. And so we are having our final tour date stop. There's no t-shirts yet, but I think we need them, here in Ottawa, March 19th. And it's very exciting, it's very empowering, really inspiring. We cover 5 key areas, which won't surprise anybody what they are. We start with leadership, and my co-author, Claire Becton, who does a 5-day Advancing Women Leaders program at Carleton University, takes all of that and distills it down in 1 hour for you. So it's fast and furious. I teach the growth strategy. BDC has an expert that covers the numbers. Your numbers tell a story. I also teach the sales and marketing. And then we have a BDC expert that finishes with people and culture. And what's fun, and please sign up, so it's free. So this is really important. It's an all-day thing. It's free. You're going to get that amazing sense of community here. And then at the end, we have amazing key players in the entrepreneurial ecosystem that all join us at the end of the day for a cocktail party. So it's a great time to pitch your business, including, we've got people from EDC, so Export Development Canada. There's, bankers, all the people that you would expect. So it's a really powerful day. So if you haven't signed up yet, go to the BDC website and you'll find it, or is it Invest Ottawa also has it? Oh, yeah. Yeah, so a lot of different ways to, and we thank you for your support, Invest Ottawa, for making it happen here. So it's March 19th, and you still can sign up. And I will say this, not only is it fun, but they feed you really well, too, and then we finish off with some cocktails. So all in all, a wonderful day. There's so many other resources, and that actually is part of what I find exciting, that there's just so much available now. And I would say our biggest challenge, frankly, and if I tap it into the research that we've done, on all of us, women entrepreneurs, the biggest challenge really is to understand what's available. There is stuff out there, but unless somebody's tapping you on the shoulder, and kind of saying, hey, do you know about this? Like Marjolaine did it today, hey, you've got a business, come on, sign up, and maybe you'll win a great recognition with an RBC award. But if you don't know about that, so, it also helps, I think, coming out and really building community that way.
And then at the top of the funnel, we've got, in terms of early tech and things like you've done with Technovation, maybe talk a little bit about that, because of the, we've talked as part of our advisory committee of not having enough at the very earliest stage of founders and in tech and engineers and students, and talk a little bit about Technovation.
Yeah, so Technovation is a program for girls ages 10 to 18, and we teach technology entrepreneurship. So in 4 months, the girls build a mobile app and a business, and then we do a pitch competition, which happens in May, and the girls pitch their businesses for prizes. So we've had 600 girls complete the program so far in Ottawa. We've got 195 doing the program this year. We're halfway through this year. And it runs it's a global program, runs around the world in 100 different countries. We've got 1,300 across Canada enrolled in the program. So that's teaching technology entrepreneurship to the high school, junior, middle school, high school level. Then getting them up into university, into programs like Startup Garage, just in terms of, I guess, some things that have changed. All of the universities now have the incubator programs. So Startup Garage, Lead to Win, Algonquin's Dare
Summit, yeah.
Dare Summit here. So lots of programs at the university level to get involved in. And then someone asked earlier about what's the right time to raise funding. It depends a little bit on how much funding you're going for, when the best time is. Monique's answer, raising money before you run out, really good advice. The hardest thing you can do is try and raise money when you don't have any. Right? And it's like, okay, if I don't close tomorrow, I'm going under. Bad time to raise. Capital Angel Network, we do early stage investment. My personal portfolio is not quite as good as yours. I've got about a third female founders in my personal portfolio. We're a little lower. I think we're around 20% in the Capital Angel Network portfolio.
Better than most.
We try hard. Yeah, and I would encourage you to come out. I have run a couple of seminars, one here at Invest Ottawa, around learning how to go for funding, things you have to watch out for. I think Monique talked quite a bit. Most of the funders are male, and the research would say that the female founders tend to get asked more risk-based questions, more about what could go wrong with your business, less about opportunity and what could go right. So one of the things to think about when you start looking for funding is practicing turning those questions around. So if someone says, well, what are the 5 risks you see in your business? Well, let me tell you about how I see it myself getting to $100 million. Because when they talk to the male founders, they're going to be asking, so how do you get to the $100 million? Oh, I do this, this, and this. Yeah, and how to deal with those, because it is 90% male on the other side of the table from you, and while we're working to change that, you have to learn how to deal with the current reality to a certain extent.
Maybe for Giovanna, you've been in some different markets. What do you notice? What have you been able to discern any differences culturally? Canada, U.S. You were in UK.
Yes. So in terms of, I think there was the question of resources.
Yeah, so
I'd actually love to just touch on that before I get into the cultural markets. So I actually had a really delightful experience recently with BDC, so the Business Development Bank of Canada. I heard something I had never heard before. And I was applying for bridge financing, and the woman on the other end of the phone said, we have a really great VC fund for women, and you should apply for that. But in the meantime, let's look at this bridge financing. And she said, we actually take into consideration that women have had different experiences in raising money and with funding. And that actually goes into the application, and it's actually unique for women's applications, and it's a new thing, but we're trying to be considerate that women have had different experiences, right? And part of this is referring to the fact that women often have a hard time asking for money, and women have had much more difficulty in raising money, and women have had less experience in raising money. And BDC is basically saying, hey, we've got a plan for that. And it was awesome. This is never something that I had ever heard in any form when, exploring, the sourcing of funds. And so I thought that was really great. And that was kind of one of those examples of, where people actually, it's a real world example of people getting with the program and being like, yeah, we're actually going to implement policies that's actually going to support women in accessing the funds that they need in the short term and in the long term. On that note, in terms of international markets, so this year we opened an office in Seattle, and we're also bridging into the United Arab Emirates in the spring. And we've been really, really happy with the level of interest in the business. And so there are a number of governments that are actually soliciting Canadian companies to come and work in their countries. For example, the royal family in Sharjah, which is one of the Emirates, actually has a program that's actively trying to solicit Canadian SMEs to come and localize their products in the country. And so this is something that we're actively working on, which is really cool. In Hong Kong, we're also exploring a pilot there where the government is actually willing to match investment dollars. And so if a Canadian company comes into Hong Kong with a $2 million investment, the government of Hong Kong, without taking any equity, is actually going to match the $2 million. This is a thing, right? And this is actually really significant. In the sense that we should be considering these opportunities. Export Development Canada has been really helpful in providing market research for this in terms of the localization and providing data on the countries that we're exploring as well. We've been heavily supported by the Trade Commissioner Services. And so for our trip to the United Arab Emirates, we have the Canadian Consul General to Dubai and the ambassador and the trade commissioners for both Dubai and Abu Dhabi that we were connected to as a small company, right? We are an SME. And so to that effect, I think it's important to note that only 15% of women-led companies in Canada that are SMEs export. However, of the women-led SMEs that export, the founders are more educated than their male counterparts who are also exporting. And so the women SMEs that are actually exporting their goods are very, very highly educated women, but they're not exporting as much. We're not really sure why. But there are tons of opportunities that are out there. And so that's just something to consider. All that to say, in terms of any cultural sensitivities, I've just found in terms of looking at doing business abroad, it's important to do your research. Every country has a different, have different practices. It's hugely important to be culturally sensitive. Make friends, go in and of course, there's business and there's friends, but I mean, there are many cultures where, people don't want to work with you if they don't like you and they don't trust you. This kind of is common sense. I find in North America, often we kind of overlook that, but when you get to Asia, the Middle East, other parts of the world, they're not really so willing to overlook if you have a bad personality. It is we kind of became accustomed to accepting that, but other parts of the world are like, no, I don't want to work with you. Bye. So keep that in mind. And on that note, I'll hand it over.
So Alida, what would you like to see more of when you hear all of this going forward, different ideas?
Yeah. Well, I also wanted to touch on quickly, I also had a great experience with BDC. They were the first ones to really believe in us, and it was a great lady by the name of Melissa who actually gave us our first loan to get off the ground. So if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't really be here where we are today. In terms of resources, I think in terms of opportunities as well, what's interesting is the new, entrepreneurs coming out of university and wherever as well. We are doing this for the first time, so we kind of have no idea what we're doing, which I think doesn't always go away. Learning that you are continuously learning. And so finding those resources and knowing where to go can be kind of tricky. What's beneficial in Ottawa is that there are a lot of those different resources that are made available, and they do a great effort and a concerted effort to let people know that these are these opportunities that are available not only just to women but just young entrepreneurs or anyone for that matter. So just going around that sense, I think making more of a concerted effort for all of those different opportunities moving forward that are potentially catered towards women, and what we can do for those opportunities to make them more available and more accessible, I think would be a great opportunity. There was some, the requirements for different programs. Sometimes it's women-led, sometimes it's women-owned, sometimes it's very specific in terms of what they're looking for. So maybe a better way to have that accessible to any type of woman entrepreneur would be something that would be very interesting to look into as well.
Cool. Okay, so I've got lots more questions to talk about, but if you have if you want a question to put to the panel, just maybe line up right here and I'll grab you a mic and bring it over. We are gonna go a little free form though. I'm gonna throw out some ideas and topics that anybody can sort of jump in on. So representation, so you heard Mike talk about some of our targets of trying to get for the board and for our advisors and companies, which is on me, lagging, trying to, what's reasonable? Obviously, it's easy to say, yes, we should have targets, that it should be 50-50 or parity or what have you, but what's reasonable of acceleration programs, of corporations, of investors? How do you sort of balance between not throwing someone completely off their mandate with trying to get to equal representation? Anyone want to jump at that one?
So the issue of equal representation, I think, is a sophisticated one in that there isn't like a standard for everyone. Norway has been very compelling in how they've mainstreamed equal representation politically and on corporate boards. In 1997, they implemented reforms and basically said, okay, all the political parties have to have a minimum of 40% women and men run and get elected. And initially everyone was up in arms and like, oh my gosh, we're gonna get all these terrible people that don't know how to be politicians, and like all the same kind of like arguments that people use, and it's not a meritocracy, oh my gosh. Like, it's the kind of arguments that prevent women from kind of running and putting themselves out there. And, fast forward to now, and Norway has a minimum of 40% women and men, and it's just a question of democracy, right? People understand, yeah, we need balanced representation. It's a thing. It is simply fair because we have both, and no one questions if women are capable of being politicians because they're awesome at it, right? And what's great is that you've got a minimum of 40% on both sides, so that at no point does one side surpass the other, and this is the same for corporate boards. Right, so when we talk about corporate boards in Canada and in a North American context, I think that that kind of solution could be interesting. Again, I think it requires a lot of public debate and for people to be open to it, but I think that we're at a time now in Canada where such a thing might not be so far off given the recent changes and the recent examples that we've seen in our current government, and certainly a lot of public appeal and support for more women on boards.
Thank you. So I'll just add that smart, innovative companies know that diversity and inclusion is the right way to grow their business. Right? I mean, the business case is made. So those smart companies are doing it and they're getting the benefits of it. If we want to see real change, we actually have to track it. And then if we really, really want to see change, we can tie it to compensation. If people have to actually reach goals, it's amazing how creative we can get. I think of, because we have our American sister with us here today, Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, when asked, how many women would you like to see on the Supreme Court? And she said, 9. And people were shocked and said, 9? And she said, well, nobody had a problem when it was 9 men.
Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I have 2 questions, being a little bit greedy here, but as a regular person attending this event, when I say regular, I'm not an entrepreneur or am not an angel investor. Thinking about what kind of business I would build if I wanted to start my own business today, I think it's a natural question to ask for a lot of people, regular people like me here in here today. But you brought up something, I think, Monique, something interesting that I never thought about. Obviously, I thought about if I become an entrepreneur, what would I be, but not as an investor. And I think when we think about investing in companies, we get intimidated by it because we think we have to have millions of dollars to be able to do that or to be on the other side. Could you tell us a little bit more about at what stage can somebody actually invest in a business or think about investing in a business in a meaningful way?
Yeah. So in the US, there are certainly rules around being an accredited investor or not based on your income level. But in Silicon Valley, it's pretty common to invest in your friend's company, and you might not be writing a big check. Some of my angel checks have been $10,000. I've certainly heard of other people who have invested $5,000 in a friend's company, and then you also have crowdfunding where people are investing even smaller amounts into companies. So I think that there are a lot of ways to make that happen, and you have to decide what's right for you, your income level, how much money you actually want to allocate toward investing in this category, and figure that out. But I'm assuming, are there accredited investor rules here as well?
Sure.
Okay. I don't know what the Canadian accredited.
Yeah, so in Canada, there's two options. There's the friends and family option. So friends and family, you are declaring officially on signed paper that you are a friend or a family member. And if you are a friend or a family member, then you can risk whatever money you want with whatever wealth level you happen to have. The main criteria, if you're going to do that, is if you usually have Christmas dinner together, and this goes belly up, can you continue to have Christmas dinner together? Or is the whole family going to fall apart if something goes wrong? And that's more of a personal decision. To invest in a stranger, we don't have crowdfunding here. To invest in a stranger, you have to be an accredited investor. And in Canada, personal income of $200,000 or more, or income with your spouse of $300,000 or more, or in financial assets, which excludes your house, of $1 million or more. And those are the criteria to invest in strangers. But you can invest in your friends whenever you want, as long as you think your friendship or your family will survive the experience.
Thank you. I'll just go to my second question. So it's probably, I have a question about traditional investments. It's probably not sexy enough for you because you're in VC and doing all cool stuff, but what's your opinion on traditional investments like stocks and bonds, given your background? It's more of a curiosity question.
I think everyone should be creating a diversified portfolio mix. You shouldn't be investing exclusively in venture capital and high-risk startups. It's a really high-risk asset class, and so you should be trying to diversify your own portfolio across stocks and bonds, across have a little bit of venture in there, some real estate. So I think yes, you should still definitely be investing in stocks and bonds. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name's Reagan. I'm here tonight because I'm a part of a mentorship circle, and our mentor, who works at L-SPARK, invited us here tonight, so I'm really happy that she did. Shout out over there. So my question for you is on mentorship. I hear it all the time, the key to success is having a great mentor. I guess it's a twofold question. Where do you find great mentors, and how do you make the most out of your mentee-mentor relationship?
I would say that I sort of found, so for most of my career, I did not have a mentor. And I definitely think I found mine by accident. I would call Kate Mitchell, who is the founding partner at Scale Venture Partners, a mentor. And she has, opened up her network and her Rolodex to me when I needed it the most, whether that's, introducing me to investors or introducing me to people I should be talking to. Funnily enough, I was at home one night working, and I was looking for a PowerPoint, a deck that I had created for Scale, which is a conference, and I put in the words Scale, and up pops this thing that says Scale cover letter, and I was like, what is that? And so I opened it, and I had actually applied for a job at Scale Venture Partners, like way, way back in the day. It was buried so deep in my Dropbox, and had never gotten a response back. At that time, I didn't get a chance to meet Kate. But over the years, Kate and I sort of found our way to each other, and she eventually became a mentor. So you never know when they're going to show up and how you end up having that mentor-mentee relationship, but it certainly comes at the right time, I believe. And you had a second part to your question, yes?
How do you make the most out of your mentee-mentor relationship?
By really communicating really well. Sometimes I will just send her a quick bullet list update of things that are happening, and she might see something in there that she can be helpful on, and she'll dash off a quick introduction or a quick email or something. And so continuing to stay in the flow of information and communication is really important.
Thanks.
I'll add a couple of comments. I would have benefited from having a mentor earlier on in my career, for sure. However, I would say, by the way, to be very clear, you need both male and female mentors. My career has been so aided by amazing male champions. So I think don't be afraid to look for amazing guys that are out there and want to help you. I started a program I helped co-found, and Shamika's here, and she was part of that amazing time with Women in Communications and Technology, where we had this big, bold idea, and we said, how do we really create effective change for women in comms and tech? And it's still running today. It's called the Protégé Project. And what we did is we matched really phenomenal women with C-suite executives from all different kinds of companies. And we put them together for this year-long match. And amazing magic happens when you have busy people who want to give their time for change. And the first thing that people were reluctant about is to say, well, why would I give my star person from my company and match them with some other company? They're going to poach them. And it was like, yeah, but if they don't get this kind of mentorship, they're going to leave anyways, right? And if you as a company are really supporting them, you're having this remarkable person who is improving their skills as they go along. And so that's more the formal kind of mentor. And you mentioned the mentorship circle, and I've done those before. Your peers can be a tremendous source of mentoring. And so form your own kind of, tribe together and get together and help each other. You need intention around it. You have to be really intentional about it. And also, not everybody you're not going to click with everybody. So look for those people that you have a spark with at a night like tonight. You have that conversation. They may not commit right away, yes, I will mentor you, but they may say, happy to have a coffee and see where that goes. So, and in terms of how to make the most out of it, you have to respect each other's time. You have to be really clear about expectations. And on top of it, you have to be realistic with your expectations. You can't expect somebody to immediately open up their whole contact list when they don't even really know you yet. But you have that opportunity to foster a great connection with somebody who can turn into being an amazing sponsor and champion in your career. And then remember you right now can be a mentor to others. So it's not like you don't hit some, age where you say, oh, now I have knowledge. You can be mentoring right now, and you have valuable contributions to make for other women. So just remember, you also have to pay it forward and pay back.
So on the subject of we need men and women mentors, I couldn't agree more. It is so important because there's so many exceptional men who are extraordinary, who really want to support women, right? And it's not because they're a woman, it's because you're an awesome woman who's doing amazing things. And so I've had a great experience with this. So my closest mentor, a man called Steve Pratt, he's the founder of Infosys Consulting, which is one of the leading software as a service companies in the world, and he was the former head of IBM's Watson. And then he ran this huge investment fund, and now he's running a $200 million AI as a service company in Silicon Valley. And he and I met in 2012 at the World Economic Forum's annual meeting in Davos. When we met, we got along really well, and he really liked what I was interested in and what I was doing, and he started off as a mentor. And then over the years, he actually became a formal advisor to my company, and then he became an investor in my company. And so these relationships can also evolve. Someone who can start as a mentor can go a long way into becoming also an investor because they know you and they care about you and they've helped you grow, and by extension, they want to introduce you to their networks because they know you and they trust you, and you know that you know them and you trust them. And so I really think that there's so much value and benefit to that. And yeah, I've just had such really great positive experiences. And I was part of the protege program that Janice just talked about. I was one of 15. It was fabulous. Yeah, is it still going? Yes. Still going. You should apply.
Yeah, for me, I think one of the most valuable opportunities to find mentors were through the existing networks that were already available to me as a founder within Ottawa. So at my time at the University of Ottawa, it was through the existing networks that they had created for entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship, and it was through these networks that someone who knew someone who knew someone really was able to connect. We were able to connect with the people that were valuable to us in terms of the new of the space that could really provide mentorship, and it was really valuable to be able to do that, to find those mentors that can really support us as founders.
So my question is, we're in Ottawa, which is a pretty government-heavy town, and I'm not sure if there's a culture, or maybe it's just me, or maybe it's a culture of risk aversion. So I'm in a, probably quite a few of us may have some really nice positions with the government, but also have passion and some pretty cool ideas that they want to pursue. So how do you make that jump? When do you do? Do you have any strategies or kind of good advice about how you stay financially safe, but still pursue your passions?
So I'm going to start with a challenge on what's actually financially safe. I talk to a lot of potential founders or founders who haven't quite made that leap to full-time, and they talk about, well, what about the risk? And I look at the types of people that are thinking about doing this, and I think, okay, so if your business is successful, it's going to be great. And if your business isn't successful, it's going to be stressful. In fact, it's probably going to be stressful even if your business is successful, just to be clear. But most people that I talk to that are interested in founding a business will be employable regardless of how that business goes. And so this thought that if you fail your business, I mean, you'll succeed, of course, but just in case you're one of the 90% that don't, that financial safety issue is, for most people, not as big a deal because you are very employable. The experience that you gain as a founder, and I follow, you know, I've had the occasional investment that didn't work out, but the companies that I invested in and the people they have, some of them are in new startups that are doing great. Some of them are have decided to go back to full-time employment in another company, but they didn't wind up, you know, with nothing. You know, you wind up with a wealth of experience, you wind up with a lot of opportunity, you wind up with a whole new set of connections, you've learned a lot, you are highly employable. So I think you need to think about that risk issue a little bit differently and what you're actually going to gain by the experience, whichever way it goes.
I'll just add, think about doing it as a side hustle. You know, you can do that for quite a long time before you have to make that break. And you'll know, depending on how things are going, there will be that natural time where you realize, oh, I need to make a change. Or, and there's lots of entrepreneurs that I know that do this, they start as a side hustle and they don't want to leave their job, so they hire somebody else to keep running it. So there's lots of scenarios. It's not an either or. So just kind of think bigger.
Yeah, and I would definitely say that, yes, that is true that, you know, you are going to gain a lot of skills that can be put to use in many different places, but the risk level varies from person to person. Obviously, if you are a person of color, it often takes you longer to get hired in the first place. So you may be having a higher risk than other people. It depends on what class you come from. If you are sending money home to take care of your parents, that matters as well. So I think it's be thoughtful about your personal situation. And yes, have a little nugget of savings, and understand how much of that nugget you can sort of whittle down over time. So I think, yes, you're right, the risk is real, and it's variable from person to person over how quickly they could get back into the job market if they needed to. So, you know, entrepreneurship doesn't come without risk, but in some cases it can be a really wonderful thing. And I think Janice's point about, you know, doing it as a side hustle is a great one.
Thank you, and thank you very much to all the panelists. It's been so insightful. I really appreciate this evening. Thank you, Invest Ottawa. I was going to ask a specific question, but I actually just wanted to maybe also share something based on the previous question, because I was actually in the federal government for a long time. I was an engineer, a manager, and also spent some time as a director. And halfway through my career, I quit and I left and I worked in the high-tech sector. And that was, you know, during the heydays before the bubble burst, and it burst. And I decided I would, at that time, I looked at entrepreneurship. I was very inspired by entrepreneurship in the tech sector, and I came back to the federal government. That lasted for an equal amount of time. And then as I was getting ready to exit a couple of years ago, I did the side hustle component, and I made a complete switch, and I went to chef school while I was, I started chef school while I was still working, and then I left and I exited, and I'm in my phase 2. So I wanted to say, though, that I did get a couple of comments, including from people who were very close to me, like, well, you're risk averse, because they associated me as being risk averse because I was in the federal government. But quitting your job to work in quitting a cushy government job to work in the high-tech sector, or quitting a cushy government job to start your own business, even thinking about it, I don't think that's somebody that's risk averse. I think there's a difference between being risk averse and managing risk, which is being thoughtful around the timing. And I think maybe even as women, maybe we are more risk managers than risk averse, because we have a lot of things to balance, and a lot of things that can potentially be affected if something goes wrong. So it's not being risk averse, I think it's managing risk. But so as a mature woman, no, just kidding. I'm I'm a mother as well, and so I'm very excited about opportunities that are available for youth, futurepreneurs, et cetera. But as I am in my phase 2 of my career and as an entrepreneur, I'm also curious to see whether or not, there is a strong support for women that are not necessarily in the first blush of career in terms of support for startups and entrepreneurship.
Awesome, thank you. I know there's some more questions, but just conscious of time, I'm going to ask, we're going to run through one last comment on message to female entrepreneurs out there, and then we'll call Erin and Sonia up to close things off. So I'll start with you, Jen. One last message. You don't want to go first, do you?
Well, I guess I will. I think the message I would say is believe in yourself. And the reason I say that is a lot of people will try and define what you can and cannot do. You will hear that, you will get a lot of advice, some of which is very, I don't know if this is the right word, but paternal, about what you should or should not be doing, what you can and cannot do. You should listen to it and take what you can out of it, but you have to know yourself when you go into this, so that when you come out of these meetings, you've still got that sense of self, and you aren't letting yourself be defined by the people around you who are trying to put a box around you or limits on what you can accomplish.
That's good advice. That's clap-worthy. So entrepreneurship, for those of you that are already in it, know it's a roller coaster ride. So in terms of what's really going to make it smooth out a little bit at least is find your tribe. Get that crew that's in your corner that when you're down, they can pull you up, and maybe when you need a little swift kick, they're going to give it to you. But, find your tribe. It's so important to go through this journey with some people who have your back. And then at the same time, I would add, along with that, so ask of that group, right? Ask of that community what you need. But also, in our research has shown, women entrepreneurs are very resilient in Canada. We're tremendous. We can be bolder. So let's ask also for what we want, not just the specific what we need, but what we really need.
I would say that we only get to see the good outcomes that happen. We only get to see at the end of the finish line, ringing the stock market bell. We only get to see that. But entrepreneurship is a really long journey, and it takes a lot of grit and resilience. And it's not great every day, but it is certainly, I believe it's worth it most days. And so keep that in mind, that person you see with that big successful story in the media didn't start there. That's where they ended up. And there was a lot of stuff that happened in the middle, and the middle is extremely messy. And so don't be defined by your messy middle, because if you keep on moving in the right direction, you too will get to that shiny, glossy picture of success. And so good luck out there.
The hot mess cannot be underestimated. I really feel like I need to reiterate that because, it's hard. It's really, really hard to build a business, and you have to have so much courage. Like, especially on days when you're doubting yourself and you're like, can I really do this? And women, we have stuff like imposter syndrome, where like, no matter how awesome you are, or like, what article just got published about you, or like whatever, you're like, oh, that's not really me. I'm not really that awesome. They're all gonna find out that I'm not that awesome. And it's like, no, you are though. And you have to accept it, because it's like no one else is gonna do it for you. And that's really one of the when we talk about being fearless, it's one of the things that you have to look at. And be fearless as much as you can. Like, be kind to yourself when you're not, and you're like, I'm really not fearless right now, I'm terrified. Because like I have made that leap, or I've spent all of this money on this business, and do I continue spending on it, right? And it's okay to say, I've tried this, and it's actually not a viable business. But like before you get to that point, the question is that the right choice? Right? Or if I just push a little bit more, like I'm gonna crack it. And it's kind of knowing the difference between the two. And so I think it's so important to just have courage, because without courage, you can't do it. You really can't do it. So yeah, find your tribe, don't mind the hot mess, and believe in yourself.
Yeah, I think those are all really amazing things, and to maybe build on that, I think one of the valuable things is finding out what you're really working towards, what your why is, if you will, because when it becomes that hot mess, and when it's, you know, messy and it's difficult, and you're asking yourself, well, why am I doing this? You'll think, oh, I have that one thing I'm working towards, that why that I started this whole journey, and so I think being able to have that really makes all of that, well, worth it, and something that you can really believe in yourself, find your tribe, and be courageous in terms of moving your entrepreneurial journey forwards.
What an incredible evening. I can't even believe how the time has flown by. I have the privilege of working with every woman on this stage, with Nick and so many in this audience, including our board, our partners, our employees, and there's so much commitment to this cause, and it's really the reason we championed International Women's Week with all of you. We hope that you will take advantage of the many opportunities throughout the week, and there's a whole calendar. I'm delighted to welcome my friend and colleague, Erin Blasky, who leads marketing at L-SPARK. We would love your perspectives on why nights like tonight are so important as we wrap it up.
Absolutely, and I was hoping that you weren't going to ask me to recite all of the events that are on this week, because there is a lot of them. I just want to really bring to attention something that I heard throughout, I think from every single person, and that's the value of a tribe, the value of finding mentors, the value of finding your people. I would say that that's been one of my biggest, secret things in the background throughout my own career. And I think you don't need to be put in a position to be a mentor, meaning you don't need to be designated by an organization to do it. I think even networking opportunities like tonight, you all have something that you can give to another person. And I think women, we are allies for each other. And I think if we can look around and ask, how can I help? I think that's a really good first step. So that's what I'm gonna take away from tonight, is how can I be even more in service to others, and most importantly, in service to more women. And I'd also encourage you, if you do need help, to reach out. I'm more than happy, wherever I can, to support.
And I would echo that. If you would like to be involved in the many women-led initiatives that we are leading here at Bayview with Invest Ottawa and partners like L-SPARK, RBC, and many others taking part in this week, please reach out to us. We have a great website, InvestOttawa/women. All kinds of good information there, resources, including those presented by the leaders on the stage tonight, our contact information. Tomorrow morning, we are hosting a fantastic breakfast led by Jennifer and the Capital Angel Network with Invest Ottawa. There's been so much interest in women investing in women, and what does it take to be an angel investor? We are hosting a breakfast upstairs on our second floor, bright and early at 7:30 a.m. with refreshments. I know, I see that grimace. It's a late night and an early morning, but great content and inspiration from women like Monique, from some of the founders that we serve, and most importantly, perhaps some of the local investors who will share their story on why it's so important and why they choose to do this. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. To all of the team members, many of the marketing and communications team members tonight that made this happen, and Katie LeClaire, who is not with us, unfortunately. We have lots and lots of goodies. There are desserts coming out. Please network and enjoy each other's company, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.